Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Cozy Small Biz After Hours. We have another pretty incredible guest with us today, and I'm excited for you to hear more about his story and the work he is doing with small businesses here in the region. I'm Megan Kim, Cozy Executive Director, and I'm here with my partner, as always, Cozy Chair Kevin Johnson, and Managing Partner of Next Gen Interactive. Kevin, how are you today, sir?
I am great, thank you. It's a beautiful day, and I have to admit, I'm loving these podcasts.
It's a lot of fun. It's fun to tell the stories of entrepreneurship here in Northeast Ohio.
Well, we've got some wonderful things going on, and it's our small businesses that are making these happen. And, today is just another example of that, as we will be talking with momentarily Brett Jones of the Evergreen Cooperative, and they are doing some wonderful things here in Northeast Ohio. And what I like about what Evergreen's story is that it's a little different, and it presents some opportunities to our small business owners as to how they might consider growing their business. It presents opportunities for existing businesses in terms of, if they are divesting themselves of their businesses as they are getting a little perhaps to the stage where they want to leave their business and sell and that type of thing, begin to liquidate. There are ways to do it that add value in a different way that they might not have considered. So I'm gonna stop there and just introduce to everyone Brett Jones from the Evergreen Cooperative, and let Brett tell the story. Brett, come on in and talk about Evergreen.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Megan. Thanks for having me. It is absolutely a pleasure to be here. Anytime I can join you two in conversation, and certainly it will be, I'm sure that it will be engaging, and I really appreciate COSE's role in the community. I've been seeing you guys do a bang up of a job for as long as I can remember, and so, as a young business person, you aspire to be involved with the COSE team, and so, a decade or so later, here we are with an opportunity to share. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And Brett, you're by, why don't we, one of the things I think I want to do is not just talk about Evergreen, but talk about your journey to Evergreen, your background. I know you're a dynamic finance guy. Let's talk a little bit about that, and then lead into the Evergreen Cooperative and the great work that you guys present.
Sure. Kevin, I never thought that I'd be called a finance guy, right? What I learned early, though, in business is that you end up doing all of it when you're an entrepreneur. And so, finance just became something I've gotten experience with just as a means of necessity. But from the Evergreen perspective, it really became important. So, I had my first company when I was 12. It was called Bresco International. My name is Brett. My brother's name is Scott. So we couldn't.
I love it.
I have a company called Bresco, and we sold address signs door to door in Shaker because the houses sit so far back from the curbside. The pizza guy, your friends and family, emergency services couldn't see it, and so my mother thought it'd be a great idea to get us selling some address signs, get us cold calling, get us operating a business at a very early age, and that seed certainly stuck with me.
Wow.
Moving through life with this entrepreneurial sort of mindset. Some guys walk in stadiums and look at all the parity. I walk in stadiums and start counting seats and hot dogs and drinks and trying to figure out where the margins are and who's making money. So it's been a fun journey to be an entrepreneur, and I thank my mom for getting me here. And it's sort of a melding of beautiful worlds when I'm at Evergreen, right? Because Evergreen started really with a focus on creating wealth building opportunities for individuals living in 7 target neighborhoods. And it was a groundbreaking model that required a bit of entrepreneurship to really get right. And so, it was about a decade ago that the Cleveland Foundation got with the Cleveland Clinic, University Hospitals, and Case Western Reserve University to try to figure out how to basically respond to an economic emergency in our community. They took a look, and median household income in the greater University Circle neighborhood was about $18,500. And I'm not talking about one part-time job for someone working at McDonald's. I'm talking about the entire household living on this, on under 20 grand. And so the Cleveland Foundation brought those anchor institutions together and said, what are we going to do about this this significant wealth gap in your backyard, in the backyards of where you guys operate. And so there was born this notion of shifting the anchor spending to locally owned companies located in these communities. But that, Evergreen takes it a step further. And so it's not just locally owned businesses located in these communities, but it's employee ownership. And that's where I think we start to get a lot more traction than other wealth building and community development models, is because ownership rests with those individuals who are also workers. And so that's a little bit about how I got to Evergreen, a little bit about how Evergreen started. And our first company at Evergreen was Evergreen Cooperative Laundry. And many folks wonder, like, how'd you decide on laundry? Well, one, hospitals spend a lot of money on laundry, getting linen cleaned every day. And so it was an obvious spend that they could direct to a local employee-owned company. But also laundry doesn't have a high barrier to entry, right? And so if you think about what we're trying to get done here, we're trying to create wealth building opportunities for those who have been ignored or disadvantaged historically. And so we needed to come up with something that they could get involved in quickly, start being productive in immediately, and then start sharing profits as soon as possible. So that's how we got our first few cooperatives going, just thinking about who we want to engage, the barrier to entry, and how fast could we begin creating wealth building opportunities. So our second company then was called Evergreen Energy Solutions. It started off as Ohio Cooperative Solar. That company was really focused on connecting those residents with the green economy and installing solar panels and solar systems on the rooftops of our anchor institutions. And that was a pretty successful effort. We got a bunch of solar installed, including what became the largest urban solar farm in the US at that time at 1.1 megawatts. And the 0.1 is significant because our buddies down the street at CMHA, the Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority, had just built a 1 megawatt array that was at that time the largest solar farm. And so being Clevelanders and being Evergreen and just wanting to be sure that we're shining, we decided to go for 1.1 and got that done. So that was exciting for guys to be in a solar field with 3,000 solar panels and on about 3.5 acres, right? So it was a big project. It continues to operate today and supplies power to the greater university circle, anchor institutions. And so our model continues, right? So originally we're focused on laundry, then we got focused on employee ownership in the construction space, and then we got into employee ownership in agriculture. And that's where we started Green City Growers, which is located on 55th and Grand. If you've flown into Cleveland at night, you may have seen this purple glow. That would have been our greenhouse and our grow lights. And often people talk about driving by it and seeing that glow. And so our original model was 1.0 Evergreen, which was how do we take anchor spending, redirect that to the community with the expressed interest of getting employee ownership into place and using that as a wealth building model. And so some success there, right? We're pretty popular around the country and even around the world. I mean, we're getting calls from outside the US to talk about really how to rebuild middle class using employee ownership. And so
awesome. Brett, let me ask you a question, maybe two. So first of all, I want you to focus a little bit more and tell us about the term that you've used a couple of times, which is wealth building in the community vis-a-vis a job in the community. What's the difference that you make? Because I think it's important that the audience understand that. And then secondly, how many people would you say that the initiatives of the Evergreen Cooperative have actually provided for wealth building to this point in time?
Absolutely, that's a great question. And it really that is the crux of the matter, right? Most of the times when you're talking about workforce development, you're talking about jobs. When we're talking about wealth building, we're talking about jobs, wages plus profit, right? So we're not only giving folks quality jobs, but we're giving them access to the profits. And when you combine wages and profits, you then begin to have wealth building opportunities because it's the efforts of everybody that you begin to benefit from. So that's how we're different, and that's what makes our wealth building model so potent and so impactful, is really it's wealth building rather than just quality jobs and the fight for 15. So we're really combining a couple of different economic models.
Excellent, excellent. And then how many people do you think through the initiatives of Evergreen are now leveraging that opportunity for wealth building?
Yeah, so right now, Kevin, we employ about 250 people in our network of companies, and so that the number of employee owners in that network ebbs and flows as folks come and go and move on. But generally, we sit around 175 employee owners, and employee ownership is accessible to everyone. When you become a new employee of one of our portfolio companies, you work for a year, and after 1 year of employment, the existing members come together and they vote on what becomes your application for membership. And so they take a look at whether or not you demonstrated cooperative principles, what kind of employee you were, what kind of teammate you were, and inevitably, 99.9% of the time, all candidates for membership get voted in by existing members, which is an interesting piece because, you talk about adding members and adding employees, adding owners to your group, you get diluted, right? It's another share that then has to, that then gets a chance to share in those profits. But inevitably, Kevin, folks take a look at the new applicants and they see themselves, and in seeing themselves, they always vote to have the members join because they know what the membership has meant to them, and they want other folks to have that opportunity. So despite the fact that folks are getting diluted, it never fails. We pretty much get unanimous votes. 99.9% of the time, folks are voted into the cooperative.
I love it. I love it. That's what I like so much about this model. It is different. It offers a different level of value, and it's in and of itself a reinvestment in our communities.
Yep.
So Brett, let's talk a little bit about what this looks like for an owner, because I love when you look at the model for the Fund for Employee Ownership. You've talked a little bit about there's 4 specific groups that are really impacted, right? For the retiring business owner who, is scared what's going to happen to their business, what's going to happen to their employees, certainly for the employees, as you talked about, for our cities and neighborhoods, and also for the investors. There's obviously benefit for them too, but what does that process look like for an owner when they start talking to Evergreen about, some of their succession plans, and what does that process feel like and look like for them?
Yeah, so our goal is to look and feel like every other buyer when we go into this process. We started the Fund for Employee Ownership because we recognized risk in those 4 areas that you're talking about right now, Megan. We saw the fact that we had retiring baby boomers who were operating companies between 500,000 and 3 million EBITDA that didn't really have great succession plans, right? They aren't really big enough for hedge funds and PE funds to chase down. Their kids, they provided a great education for their kids, and their kids have decided to go on and do something else and not run the family business. And so, what we got concerned about immediately was, hey, there's businesses that are gonna potentially just close, right? Either the owner's gonna liquidate, and or just shut the business down and move on to retirement. And so we took a look at that, and we sort of extrapolated the fact that there were some quality jobs that were also at risk. And so our focus when we moved into this was to, one, absolutely protect the jobs and protect the people who are working those jobs. We saw this wealth transfer taking place, and there's like some 26 or 36 trillion dollars of wealth that's going to transfer in the next 15 years. And we saw that as an opportunity to create more wealth building opportunities for the employees. And so for the seller, what it really looks like is every other transaction, right? So when we come to the table, we want to be doing evaluations. We want to be providing valuations that look like every other valuation. We don't expect owners to provide a discount because they're doing business with us, right? So we want to give them fair market value, realizing that when we're working on these transactions, that we're really creating debt loads and financial structure for future employee owners. And so we're very careful not to overvalue the business because it becomes the burden of the future employees. We're also very careful to not undervalue because then that shortchanges the exiting owner. So we want to try to hit the nail on the head. We do all of our valuation and due diligence work in-house, which we think keeps the cost down, so the transaction costs stay down a little bit. And it makes us nimble. And it keeps us close to the transaction, and it keeps us working close with the owners who may or may not have some nuances that we can pick up to make the transaction stronger. So we try to be a really close and tight-knit team. We work with sell-side advisors, their accountants, whoever we need to on their team to help sometimes create new projections into our model and come up with those valuations. But we try to be a small, tight team in-house.
Right.
And you guys started, what, in 2005, 2008?
Yeah, so the Evergreen Cooperative kicked off in 2008. First company,
which was an interesting time to start.
It was, but right, and it was like one of the most important times to start.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, there had been some groundwork going into that prior to actually launching, and maybe it was the foresight of those folks over the Cleveland Foundation looking at the economic landscape shifting. I don't know what leading indicators they're looking at, but I certainly want access to those. Because they well positioned Evergreen to be responsive in the community and create stability for the communities with jobs.
Yep. The work of the foresight of the Cleveland Foundation just continues to sow seeds.
Yeah, indeed it does.
And you've had some interesting transactions lately. So I think when people are thinking about this model, they don't realize the potential. So Phoenix is one. Congratulations. Phoenix Coffee is a recent transaction. You've had some other recent transactions in the last several months as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we got our seed capital to kick off this impact fund in late 2018. And so we spent 2019 really understanding the landscape and getting our processes in place. And then we made our first investment really in February of 2020, just before the pandemic, right? Just before the show.
Okay.
And I don't know, had we known that the pandemic was coming, maybe we wouldn't have made that investment, but we took a look at that business. We made that investment, and it was in Berry Insulation. So we were able to work with Martin Berry to transition his company. And by golly, that company has performed well during the pandemic, which is a testament to our team's ability to really find and identify solid operators and work with them to make the transition. In August, so a few months later, we made another investment into Berry Insulation so that he could acquire his competitor, right? So not only are we making initial investments to acquire companies, but we're also making follow-on investments for those companies to grow. So we're growing, we're creating and growing employee ownership with these investments, and so we made a second investment in the pandemic, and then our third investment, which was Phoenix, which you're talking about, Megan, was one that nobody thought we would ever make. And no one would every time we talk about this, we invested in Phoenix Coffee becoming employee owned. Everyone's like, you did that during the pandemic when food and beverage industry is really heavy hit. But when you're Phoenix and you've got a strong history and a strong reputation and a strong product, they've maintained their sales. A little bit of dip, of course, everybody sees it, but we've just forecasted and worked closely with those owners to really figure out what the projections look like, and they look strong and they continue to be strong. So, yeah, we've made 3 investments this year. Our goal is to make about 3 or 4 a year. We're excited about moving into the industrial space in this upcoming year. We're excited to continue growing in the food space with synergy, right? So we're looking at some food distribution companies and some prepared packaged foods to serve seniors and schools. And so, when we look at where we are, which is textile, construction, and agriculture to begin with, right? Berry Insulation followed that. We're looking at Phoenix followed that. So we're looking at continuing to not only grow our existing spaces and industry verticals, we're looking to move into new ones too. So we're excited about doing 3 to 4 next year. Hopefully some industrial, likely more food, likely more construction, but really it's about jobs for us. So we don't get hung up on the industry as long as we're not destroying the planet or being harmful to humans, right? We want to take a look at all industries because guess what? There are employees in all industries, and we firmly believe that all employees should have a chance at ownership.
Yeah. So let me ask you this question. A lot of your model so far has been on converting the existing to the model of employee owned. I'm looking at an opportunity, and I'm wondering if as I build that, begin to hire, can I actually structure that as an employee owned from the outset?
Absolutely. So, so what we do is we form these special purpose entities that we invest in, and we form them as worker cooperatives on the front end. So these are brand new entities formed as worker cooperatives that then acquire the assets from the seller. And so certainly you can do startup work. You can start companies as employee owned. Give me a call as you make that decision. Startups are hard. Employee ownership can be a real feather in the cap and make that business operate a little bit better. But we've shifted from startup at the moment and are really focused on this acquisition work.
Yeah, for good reason.
Yeah.
And I think the Phoenix Coffee one that Megan brought up is a good example, because it's probably not one that people would typically think of.
Right.
As a good case for that. So that's good. So, one of the things that you talked about was the fact that we've got, we're in this period of time now in the next 10 to 20 years, and that might even be long, but we have so many established businesses that are on their way out, looking to liquidate, looking to retire, people that have built strong businesses, family businesses, and there's just so many of them that are going through this exit planning process and trying to figure out how to get out. I mean, their whole life has been on growing and maintaining and whatever, but they haven't spent time on exit planning, and that's where you guys come in at and provide them with this additional option.
Absolutely. I mean, Kevin, when you're operating a business at that size, a lot of times, you are the talent, right? So you're doing sales, you're doing ops, you're doing administration, and with all that on your plate, it's hard to also focus on planning. And so, we partner with guys like Exit Planning Institute to try to contact and work with owners as they consider succession. One of the things that I like about our model is that, we do take care of the owner and we do take care of the jobs, but the owner doesn't have to understand employee ownership to get into the transaction with us, right? Yep. We are the subject matter experts on that. We promise that we're going to give you a fair valuation. We promise you that the check's going to clear, right? And we promise you that we're going to take care of everything on the back end, right? But you don't have to understand employee ownership on the front end. We are actually putting capital on the table for employees. And so a lot of times you'll say to the owners, hey, if you get it out of order, you'll say, what do you think about your employees buying your business? And they often look around and say, which one of these employees are you talking about? And where are they going to get the cash? Who has the wherewithal? And that's really our role, right? We have the cash, we have the wherewithal. And so that's the thing that we bring to the table that should make owners comfortable doing business with us, is that we're going to support their employees in the transaction and our check's going to clear.
That's a big one. The Exit Planning Institute, I know those guys, and I will tell you that one of the things when I sat down and I was talking to them about some activity is that these business owners, if there's one thing that they have in common, no matter the industry, most of them are very well invested in their employees, longtime employees who have helped them build that business and help them be who they are. And so when you come in with an option that says, we are going to help you achieve your goal of exiting your business and doing it on your terms, but we're also going to present an option to your employees that is a better option in many ways than just what the normal exit would be. We're going to make them owners of the enterprise that they've worked so hard to help build up over these years. And I think that's a very good attraction, a very big attraction for a lot of these legacy owners who are looking to liquidate.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, obviously you've been drinking the Kool-Aid, Kevin. I'm not sure whose podcast this is. I think who's going podcast. But yeah, you're nailing it, man. I mean, because if they're second generation owners, there's likely second generation workers. And so these owners and workers have come up together, seeing their fathers and mothers work together, and now they're getting a chance to work together. They may go to church together, they may be in the grocery store together. And so it's real prideful when owners get to turn over the keys to what is oftentimes like family, right? And know that the legacy is going to be continued, the people are going to be taken care of, and they can always swing by and say hi.
Right.
Exactly. And I tell you what, having done this to some degree in my career, the sun feels so much better on your face when you know what you left behind is running well and you've taken care of people.
Absolutely. And so that, but we don't want to just, we love the space that was created by traditional private equity. And what we love is the fact that we get to be in that space and supplement that, right? So if you want, if normal private equity and hedge fund is good for you, there's options there for you to do that. We operate in that very same construct on the impact side. And, that's the thing that's special about Evergreen and about not only our 1.0 model where we're working with anchor institutions, but also our 2.0 model where we're making these acquisitions and conversions, is that we're operating within the normal capitalist system, right? As a nonprofit, mission-driven organization, we're not asking for handouts. We want to compete, right? We want to go to market, we want to offer fair value, and our companies want to compete, right? So this is not about handouts or discounts, right? This is capitalism, and we are, I always like to say that we get to go to bat, we get to get up every day and maximize shareholder value just for a different set of shareholders. Yes. And so, all rules and all systems apply. I'm just taking care of this group of people while you take care of that group of people. But you know what? Everybody gets taken care
of. And quite frankly, that's the part that's different.
Right.
When you think about it, that's the part that's different.
Right.
So kudos to you guys. How big is your organization? How many people do you have? How do you what's behind the curtain?
Yeah, you know what? There's a curtain there for a reason. You don't want to see how the sausage is made at Evergreen, buddy.
Okay.
But I'll ask you a different question that's probably easier to answer. So if there's businesses listening today and they're interested in learning how they might work with you, or they're in that place in their business where they're, Kevin's point, working on their exit strategy or their succession plan, how do they reach out? How do they learn more? Where should they go to kind of get more information?
Yeah, I mean, they should call me. I answer every call. Thank God that my phone hasn't rung during this podcast, because by golly, if an owner calls me while I'm doing this thing, I'm taking it. They should call me. 216-338-4468 is my telephone number. You can text or call anytime. I will get back to you. We can begin the conversation. You can check out our website. And I'm sure that we'll post something here. We'll provide some links to our website. But yeah, my phone number is probably the best way to get that done. Our website's probably the second best way to get that done. I encourage you to reach out to Megan and Kim. I have their cell phone numbers. They have mine. We are looking to be a part of it all. And so, we also have social media. So if you want to get in our DM, you can get in our DM and we'll respond to you there. It's, we're trying to keep all the channels open, and we try to make it easy.
Great. Well, we are so grateful for what you are doing in our community. Certainly make sure these legacy businesses continue in the region and to take care of employees and give them new opportunities. And certainly the impact you've had on neighborhoods is also significantly important. So this was fun. I'm glad we got to talk to you. We always have fun with you. So thank you, Brett, for joining us again. Kevin, any last words from you?
No, I am just elated at our opportunity to speak with you. Your ability to bring the value proposition of Evergreen to our podcast audience. I think that I always love a different model and one that brings significant value. And without a doubt, Evergreen is doing that. You and your team have been doing fantastic work. Being able to talk about it is just a blessing of this vehicle. So we're happy. Megan and I continue to have big fun. And it's because of people like you and the Evergreen Cooperative. So we thank you.
Thanks a million for having me, guys. I appreciate it, and I look forward to continuing these conversations.
Thanks, Brett. And everybody, we will see you at the next, we'll at the next podcast. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.